Hi everyone, my name is Naoko. I'm going to talk about Pragmatics focused TBLT. I'm the professor of Applied Linguistics at Northern Arizona University. I teach courses in linguistics and TESOL, and my research interests include second language pragmatics, technology-enhanced language learning, and intercultural communication. Given these interests, I'm very invested in today's topic, which is a connection between TBLT and pragmatics. I will start with this question. What is a pedagogical task for L2 teaching? There are several defining characteristics of a task established in the TBLT literature. For one, tasks are meaning-focused. So there is a primary focus on meaning over form. And tasks are goal-driven. There is a clearly defined non-linguistics outcome students are supposed to achieve while completing the task. And finally, tasks are authentic and has relevance to real-life situations and reflect real-life language use. But the question here is, what is real-life language use? Pragmatics has an answer to this question. In real-life situations, we use language not just to exchange information with others. We also use language to build, develop, and maintain good interpersonal relationships. There are several key considerations for this interpersonal dimension of language use. One consideration is appropriate language use in context. So there are many different linguistics expressions and forms we can use to mean the same thing. But depending on who we are talking to under the circumstance, we select one linguistics form to use. Let's take an example of greeting as a communicative function. Greeting is something we do every day, and there are many different expressions: hi, what's up, how are you, hello, and good morning. Depending on the context, who we are greeting to, what time of the day, and what the situation, we select one form of greeting. So this is what we mean by the connection or relationship between language and the context of use. Another key consideration is politeness and formality. So these social concepts are important because our linguistics choice depends on how formal or polite we want to sound in front of others. These social concepts, politeness and formality, are grounded on these face needs. Our linguistics choice depends on our desire or intention of saving or protecting others' face as well as our own face. These key considerations are also explained in theories in pragmatics. One of the most classic theories in pragmatics is a speech act theory introduced by Austin and Saul in 1960s. And they distinguish the term between sense and force. Sense is an utterance or sentence we produce. And force is a meaning or intention behind the utterance, or the communicative goal the speaker wants to achieve by producing the utterance. For example, it's hot out here. This is a sense. But the force or meaning behind this utterance can be the speaker's request, asking the listener to open the windows or turn on the air conditioning because it's too hot. This is the relationship between sense and force. Sense is what is said, and force is what is meant. Another important pragmatic theory is politeness theory by Brown and Levinson in 1987. Brown and Levinson emphasize contextual factors which guide our linguistics choice. Specifically, they emphasize the three contextual factors: the power relationship between the speakers, the social distance between the speakers, and the degree of imposition or the size of the act we want to perform. So let's take an example of making a speech act. So request making, we do on an everyday basis, but there are many different types of requests. And one type of request is asking a big favor from someone who has greater power and larger social distance. An example is asking the boss for a day off. Another type of request is asking a small favor from someone who is close and familiar and in an equal power relationship. An example is asking a sister to pursue the remote control. These two requests are very different in terms of the contextual factors. Because of those differences, we use different linguistics forms to make a request in these situations. And finally, interactional pragmatics is another theoretical paradigm which came to the field of pragmatics relatively recently. Scholars in interactional pragmatics emphasize that meaning or intention are co-constructed between the speakers during interaction. For example, asking the boss for a day off, you present your request for a day off in front of the boss. But boss may ask you questions like when you want to take a day off, why you need a day off, or how you want to make up some missed work. So this is a interaction. There is a question and answer sequences between the boss and the employee. And during this interaction, the intention of the request and acceptance of the request are negotiated between the boss and employee. So this is a very quick summary of theories of the pragmatics. And now I'm going to jump into the application part. So this is about how to apply pragmatics concepts and theories to teaching in TBLT context. And for this section, I will use an example of teaching the speech act of complaint in a college level ESL classroom. And the proficiency level I'm aiming at for this lesson is intermediate level, B1, according to Common European Framework of Reference. So complaint is a highly sensitive, face-threatening speech act. We want to teach students how to make a complaint appropriately according to situations. The first thing teachers can do is to present two different situations involving a complaint. These are example scenarios. Situation A is a service encounter customer service complaint. You ordered a pair of sandals and requested 2-day shipping, but the sandals never arrived on time. You are writing an email to the customer service rep complaining about this situation. This is a routine, low-stake complaint situation, but the situation B is very different. It's a complaint from student to professor. So student receives a grade of C from one of the classes, but they don't think the grade is fair because they did well on the exams, did well on the homework, and actively participated in class. So they are writing an email to the professor complaining about the grade they received. So this is a much more high stake involved situation of a complaint. So students can read these two situations of a complaint, and then they can compare these situations according to the contextual factors of power, social distance, and the degree of imposition or the right of the complaint. So after making the comparison, students can think about how language of complaining might be different between these two situations. For example, in the customer service complaint, they might use more direct form of complaint, like asking direct questions. But in the other professor situations, they might use more indirect way of complaining, using a statement or using hedging in their language. So they can brainstorm the linguistics resources they can use for these two types of situations. Then they can actually write the emails in both situations. Teachers can give feedback on their language use and also the structure of the email. If the email has a beginning, main point, and ending, teachers can provide real-life samples so students can compare their language use for similarities and differences. There are many service encounter customer service complaints samples online, so teachers can download some samples and bring to the class. Professor complaint scenarios, situations may not be so common, but teachers can share their own experience of receiving complaints from students. So this is an application example, and I want to end my session with a few takeaways and final reflections. Pedagogical tasks should engage L2 learners with real-life language use. And real-life language use, essential part of a real-life language use involves pragmatics. And pragmatics is about expressing intentions and achieving communicative goals and maintaining an appropriate level of politeness and formality in language use according to contextual factors like power, social distance, and degree of imposition. Pragmatics is also about co-constructing meaning and intention collaboratively with others during interaction. So as a final thought, some of you might be wondering what proficiency level is appropriate for pragmatics in TBLT. But in my opinion, really, any levels we can introduce pragmatics. As long as teachers can select communicative functions appropriate to students' levels. For example, the speech act of complaint may require more advanced or intermediate level proficiency, but there are other communicative functions, greeting, which is accessible for beginning level learners. So what is important for pragmatics teaching is to raise students' metapragmatic awareness, which is an understanding of a relationship between language use and the context or contextual factors. Teachers can use any communicative functions to raise students' metapragmatic awareness. This is all I had for today. This is a list of the suggested readings. Thank you so much for your attention.